Halloween is officially over, and we are now entering the season of eating and cooking and baking. Coming up, we have two major holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, which are typically revolve around the kitchen, in my opinion. For Thanksgiving, obviously it's all about the food, and during Christmas, there's so much baking in the house. It's gonna be a good time. I have a lot of recipe ideas, a lot of different things to share with you guys over this season, so I'm really excited. I sat down and planned out everything, so it's gonna be great. In this video, I'll show you how to make cranberry sauce from scratch with real cranberries instead of the jellied kind that comes in a can. The real stuff is, like a lot of other things, much better when you make it fresh. And I grew up with the canned version and I really liked it until I tried the real version and I was like, okay, this is much better. And also in this video, I want to share how cranberry sauce has changed the entire way that I cook. Sounds really ridiculous, but I'll tell you why, and we'll talk about acidity in cooking towards the end of the video. But first, let's make the cranberry sauce. Let's go. We're going to start by peeling an orange. I will link the recipe I used as a reference in the description below, but on the recipe page there is some confusion in the comments as to the instructions given on how to prepare the orange. The ingredient list calls for 1 medium orange, seeds removed and chopped. So the question is, should it be peeled? How small should the pieces be cut? I'm not sure the intention of the recipe's author, but I choose to peel the orange and cut the orange into very small pieces. This is a situation where it helps to think ahead while you're preparing the ingredients and ask yourself, how is the orange going to be used? Is it simply going to steep in the pot and add flavor and then be discarded? Or will it stay in the finished sauce and be eaten? The answer in this case is we're going to heat the orange in water enough to cover the orange by about 1 inch until boiling and then immediately remove from heat. Strain and rinse under cold water. Then return it to the pot and add the remaining ingredients. So yes, the orange is intended to stay in the finished dish that you'll be eating. And in that case, I don't like to eat the peel, so I remove it. And I choose to cut the pieces into small pieces so that there are many small bites of orange instead of large bits of orange in the finished product. Now that the orange business has been taken care of, we're going to move on. We're going to add 1 pound of fresh or frozen cranberries, 1 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1 cinnamon stick, half a teaspoon of allspice, a pinch of salt. And though this recipe doesn't call for it, I add my secret ingredient, if you want to call it that, freshly grated ginger. I'd recommend using about half to a whole teaspoon of grated fresh ginger. It adds a tiny bit of spicy pop to the finished sauce without being overbearing. It's delicious. Once everything is in the pot, we're going to cook, stirring often until syrupy and the bottom of the pot is visible when you run a spoon or spatula through it. This is an instance where you definitely want to go by the indicator, not the time listed in the recipe. The recipe gives a time frame of 12 to 15 minutes, but mine actually took around 18 to 20 minutes to thicken all the way. It really depends on the exact moisture content and the exact temperature you're using. So use the visual indicator of running your spoon along the bottom of the pot and use the time given in the recipe as a guideline to keep in mind. If you find that it's taking quite a bit of time to thicken like mine did, you can squish some of the cranberries against the side of the pot to help. Cranberries contain pectin naturally, which is used in jellies and jams to help them firm up. By squishing the cranberries that haven't already popped in the pot, you'll release the pectin and help the sauce thicken faster. Do keep in mind though, this sauce will thicken a little bit more after you take it off the heat and put it in the fridge. When it's thickened enough, remove it from heat, transfer to a bowl, and let it cool at room temperature before covering and placing in the fridge until you're ready to serve. It can even be made 1 week in advance. Don't forget to carefully remove the stick of cinnamon. And once it's cooled, I like to garnish mine with a sprig of mint. It smells really great if you slap it awake, for lack of a better term, and it looks really pretty. Ta-da! Now it's been sitting in the fridge for a while and just to cool down, so let it come to room temperature when it's done, then cover it and stick it in the fridge, and it will really kind of solidify into more of a like jelly texture. So it's a lot more firm now, and I'm pretty sure, I have never tried it, but I'm pretty sure that because it firms up so well, if you wanted to, you could probably put it in a mold of some kind and then just flip it over to get it out if you wanted it to look really pretty. Again, I've never tried it, but something to try if you want to. If you're so inclined, let's try and see how it turned out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is one of the better batches I've made. I'm telling you, the ginger really makes it pop. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that cranberry sauce has changed the entire way that I cook. And it's because of this book. This video is not sponsored. I just genuinely have found this book to be absolutely vital to me learning to cook without recipes and just know what it is that I am doing when I'm cooking. So if that's something that interests you, or Christmas is coming, so if you want a gift for someone that wants to learn to cook or has an interest in that and they don't have this book already, I will put a link in the description so you guys can get it if you would like. Again, this video is not sponsored, it's just something that I have found so much value from this book and I have learned so much, so I just wanted to share. Anyways, but the reason that I'm bringing this up, in the chapter about acid, she talks about how she was raised eating Parisian foods and kind of describes some of those. And then she says that when she grew up and went to college, she went with her friend to a traditional American Thanksgiving dinner. You know, they had the normal stuff that you usually have at Thanksgiving dinner: turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy. Usually you have some sort of vegetable like creamed corn or spinach, or like a green bean casserole or something. You have sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. And then for dessert, you have pumpkin pie or pecan pie. You know, that's really the traditional thing. And also cranberry sauce. She said that when she went to Thanksgiving with her American friend, she, you know, had a couple bites, but then pretty much everything was the same kind of flavor. If you think about it, turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, even the rolls or like bread of some kind, vegetables, they're all very like savory, salty, buttery flavors. And there's not much else going on there. There's really kind of no spice. There's no acidity. And then later on, she talks about how when she started working at the restaurant, she went to Thanksgiving dinner with her chef friends. And in all of the recipes that they made for Thanksgiving was acidic ingredients to like enhance the flavor and balance everything. In the mashed potatoes, they added sour cream. They used wine and vinegar to add acidity here and there to each dish so that you weren't just smothering your entire plate with cranberry sauce because that's the only acidic thing available to you. And I remember reading this and going, oh my gosh. Just like this light bulb went off in my head and it made so much sense. And I thought to myself, man, like, that's why every Thanksgiving I am personally like dipping everything in cranberry sauce. Like, I didn't realize that's why I was doing it. So I have taken this idea of acidity in food, and to be honest, when I first read this book, I had no idea how to apply that. I was afraid of using acid in food because I thought if I added vinegar to something, it would taste like vinegar. But shortly after reading the book, I was making a pasta sauce and I decided to try it. So I tasted my sauce. I added think like half of a teaspoon of vinegar, something very, very small, because I didn't want to mess it up. And again, I was afraid of adding vinegar to sauce. I thought I was gonna make it taste like vinegar. I added just a little tiny bit and stirred it up so that it was, you know, distributed in there, and tasted it again. And I swear to you, I was just standing in the kitchen, I tasted it, and I was like, everything just stopped. My jaw dropped, and I was like, I have unlocked the secret of cooking. That's seriously how I felt at that moment. I am still, to this day, everything that I make, I'm always thinking about acid. What's going to be the acid in it? And how much is going to be in there, and what kind. Like, there's different kinds. You could use, you can use vinegar, you can use wine, you can use acidic fruit like lime, lemon, oranges, other things like sour cream or creme fraiche or buttermilk. Depending on what dish you're putting it into, you can change the kind of acidity that you add. And really, if you're going to start experimenting with this, what I really encourage you to do, if you have any interest in cooking and kind of developing your skill as a cook, if you're starting with recipes, try to think to yourself when you're reading the recipe, like, okay, identify the acid in that recipe. And if there isn't one, ask yourself why, and consider if you want to add one when you make it. A lot of recipes that I've found have been improved in my making of it by just adding a little bit of acid on my own when I make it, even though the recipe didn't call for it. But that's something to do when you're using a recipe. If you're not using a recipe and you've started kind of experimenting with cooking on your own, or you're just throwing something together, think to yourself, what's the acid in this? Or how can you add acid, and what form would it come in? If you're making chicken, you might want to consider buttermilk. If I'm making a pasta sauce, I might consider vinegar or wine, or maybe even lemon if it's something that's, you know, chicken. If I'm putting chicken in a pasta dish, or shrimp or any kind of seafood, consider lemon. You can start experimenting with those things. And bringing me back to the cranberry sauce, in specific, during Thanksgiving time, adding acidity to each traditional Thanksgiving dish will greatly improve the overall meal, because the acid will act more as a balancer than anything else. Another good example that the author gives in the book is lemonade. If you're making lemonade and you just mix the water and the lemon juice in the beginning and you stir it up and taste it, it tastes super sour. As soon as you add the sugar, you can stir it up and taste it, and it tastes great. And you didn't take away any of the lemon in there. You just added sugar that balances out the acidity. So it's just a balancing act. Whereas salt makes things taste more like themselves, which is a whole other subject. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's been something that really drastically improved my cooking, like immediately. Just adding acid to different dishes, especially because most of the food that I make, and this might be different for you based on just where you live, how you were raised, the food that you're around in your area. But for me, I grew up in Southern California eating basically traditional American food, which is good and I like it. I just didn't realize I was missing acid in my food until it was there. If you are going to start playing with kind of adding acidity to your meals, to your cooking, I'd recommend starting out with very, very small amounts of whatever it's going to be, like, you know, a half a teaspoon or something, and then build it up from there. Just add it, stir it up, taste it. Add more, stir it up, taste it. Stir it up, taste it. Like that's how you figure out how much of what goes in. And really, if you're a home cook, you're cooking for yourself and your family. So make it to how you want it to taste. Anyway, I hope you guys liked that video. The cranberry sauce is amazing. Seriously, try it. With the ginger, it is so good. And I'll put the link to the book in the description so you guys can get it if you would like. Next week, we're going to be applying this to mashed potatoes and gravy. I'm gonna show you how you can brighten up your mashed potato recipe, and we're gonna make the best gravy. So I'm excited. So that video is coming next week, so stay tuned. If you like this video or you learned something, give it a like. If you'd like to learn more, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.